Thanks for being with us today. A big week in Idaho Falls as the police announced a suspect arrested in the murder of Angie Dodge. We were just here a few weeks ago with Chief Bryce Johnson. We talked about this. We talked about the Stephanie Eldridge case, which at the time you had arrested a suspect. And I think we talked about Angie, and here we are.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be part of IFPD. It's pretty incredible.
1996, 23 years ago.
Amazing, huh?
Angie was murdered in her I Street apartment in Idaho Falls. For those people that may not be caught up, can you give us a summary of how you were led to this suspect in Caldwell?
So we'd been working it for the full 23 years. And through that entire time, as each new technology came available, the people at the department at the time embraced that technology. DNA has come so far since that time. You might remember the snapshot that came out. What was that, a couple years ago? They tried some genealogy testing as well, and that led us to Louisiana a few years ago to someone that they thought was connected. So this has been a drama that's gone for years and years and years, and they were all pretty close. They weren't far off. They were narrowing it in, just couldn't quite get there. The new developments came out. The Golden State Killer, you're familiar with that one? Yeah. The detectives that were working the Golden State Killer case talked to one of the IFPD detectives in the Angie Dodge case, Pat McKenna, who was a detective here at the time. Detective McKenna had written warrants to do in Angie's case what was done in the Golden State Killer case. It just didn't work out for us there. But the template, the warrants, the idea, they kind of shared that information. So it was always moving. Cece, who is just really incredible, she gave me her official definition of the title of her work. It's got like 4 or 5 scientific names lined up behind it.
We can call her a genetic genealogist. Is that what you call her?
Forensic genetic genealogist.
Yeah.
She's really smart. Can I just say that? So she's kind of pioneered this and developed it. We started working with her, and she will tell you that this is the hardest case that she has worked. Some of the cases are harder because they've not been solved, and so she'll say those are harder because I haven't figured it out yet. But of all these cases that have gone, this is the hardest one to put together.
And why is that?
There was a degraded sample of DNA. She'd never worked with a degraded sample of DNA before, and so that made it harder. The number of connections she needed, she didn't know she could do it until she tried. She told us that normally she would have just declined even taking a look at this case. But because of Carol and the contact that Carol had with her, she gave it a try. But her knowledge up until that point told her that she wouldn't have been able to do it with what she had. Carol inspires people. I actually saw her hug you, you know. Yeah. That's just, Carol inspires people. So she gave it everything she had, and she was able to put this stuff together. And it really got ramped up and moving really quick about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago.
So from what I understand, she takes this sample, this degraded sample of semen, and is able to trace it to a family tree and basically eliminate people in the family until you end up with Mr. Dripps.
She comes up with a family tree that and this is where we get way into the science. Sure. I'm the wrong guy to give you the science, but she can match from people that voluntarily sent their DNA into all of these genealogy sites. Got my daughter that for Christmas. She spit in the tube, we sent it off. So if they're after me, they're going to find me because the DNA is there. I don't think they're after me. But so people have done that all over the place. Cece actually started out as finding adoptive parents. She would use the same technique to take people that were adopted, use that genealogy database, and find their parents using the DNA. And she looked at it and she thought, well, I could probably do that for murders, for cold cases as well. So she switched from finding adoptive parents to finding killers not too long ago. And so she matches the small portions of the DNA that she can up to these family trees, and she can narrow it in a little bit. And it got to what I think were the grandparents, the great-grandparents, and we knew it had to be something along the male line of that. But that's still a lot of people. Those trees grow pretty quick. I mentioned we sent people to Louisiana several years ago. The person they were looking at then is on that family tree, just six cousins out, right? So they're just barely off, but once you're barely off, it gets further and further as you go down range. So she gave us that, you know, and some of the folks in the tree, they were 4 years old at the time of the murder, so logically you can eliminate that. Some were really old at the time of the murder, and so we were able to discount those. Some of the people in the tree, they had died before the murder, so pretty sure they didn't do it. And that tree would have ended, and that becomes important as the later story goes, that tree would have ended there. And so we started, you know, communicating with CC. We started looking at the people that were in the tree. There were people around the country. Some of them lived in several states away. We were fully prepared to send our entire team to different states to do the work. We had plans in place to do that. We didn't end up having to do it. The closest ones were in Twin Falls, so we went to Twin Falls. Like I said yesterday, one of the people just discarded some tobacco, some chewing tobacco. Detectives run out, grab the tobacco. You know, I could just imagine what the people in Twin Falls were thinking. This is crazy. I mean, they're not dressed as police officers at the time. They're trying to hide in the shadows and do this. They're running out, picking up someone's chewing it. It's like, that's kind of gross. You know?
And that wasn't it. The tobacco was not it.
We were excited, right? So we get excited, comes back, we send it to the lab. It was taking a couple days to get the results back, comes back negative, you know, a little dejected. It doesn't just come back negative, but comes back and you're further off. You're off when CC gets a look at it. So they dig in even more. They keep doing research. CC and her team, they find an obituary of a grandmother that says that has listed her surviving offspring in the obituary, and one of them is the ex-wife of someone that we knew was in this family tree we were looking at. She was in that obituary, and it showed she had a child. And they went back and looked at the times of when that child, because the child that was born, the mom had remarried, and the child was born and had the new name with it. Yeah, so we had thought that branch of the tree had died, and there was nowhere to look there. But the dates predated that divorce, and so that became part of the tree. And so, you know, CC looked at that, and she got back with Bill Squires and Joel Tisdale and John Marley and the whole team that was working this. And like I said, I think I've got it. You know. And
how long ago was that?
It was a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago.
It was not that long ago, yeah. This started really moving.
Yeah.
Because we looked at it, right? That's one part of it. We start looking at it, and we're oh my, the person's name you gave us lived across the street from Angie. Completely separate from all the work that they were doing, you know.
But she gives you this name, and your detectives are able to say, oh yeah, he did live there. He lived across the street.
Yeah. And so that puts us really in hyper gear at that point. So the whole team, you know, Captain Squires, Lieutenant Tisdale, Sergeant Marley, Detective Albright, and an entire team of folks. They go to Caldwell. Caldwell PD was so. Twin Falls PD, Idaho State Police, Twin Falls Sheriff's Office. This is such a big effort by so many different folks. They go down to Caldwell. Before we even went down there, the Caldwell Police Department, their undercover detectives had found where he lives, verified that it'd be worth us going down there. They did a little pre-surveillance of cars to look for.
And they found out that he goes to the convenience store every day, right, at the same time?
So that was our guys that went down there. So they did all that pre-stuff. Caldwell was just so helpful. Our guys go down there. They just start watching him. And you know, he first came out. It was pretty quick he came out. And he's smoking a cigarette, throws it out out the window, and they're, how good is that? 20 minutes in, we're going to get this. But it goes in the road, and cars are going back and forth in the road, and it takes a while for the detectives to get out there, and apparently a lot of people throw their cigarettes in the road, and there's lots of cigarette butts there, and it just didn't work. So they were like, So hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of surveillance, and they stick at it. He goes out again, another cigarette butt goes into the road. They've got him patterned at this point, so they were expecting that, and there was someone right on it, and grabbed that cigarette. State lab was prepped. The Idaho State Lab, they knew what was happening. Again, Carol, they know Carol. Carol knows them. They knew the importance of it. They were anxiously awaiting us to give them something. They'd already told us they would work it until they weren't going to put us in line and get back to us in a year. This was going to happen. So the detectives took the cigarette straight to the lab. There's some testing they have to do. Did we get a sufficient sample? So the whole team stays there because it was an insufficient sample. Run it again.
And this is like a week ago. Yeah. Wasn't this last Friday?
Yeah.
So this is a week ago.
Yeah, it was last Friday. We get the word back from the Idaho State Lab. We've got a sufficient sample. Pretty excited about that, but we don't know what it's going to say yet. It was the Saturday we get the word back from the lab that we've got a match after 23 years of that DNA spinning in what they call CODIS, which is the National FBI database. That DNA has been in that database for 23 years. It just, every second of every day it's spinning in that database. Every time a DNA gets entered in that database, it lines it up and says, is this a match? Nope. Is this a match? No. The Idaho Falls Police Department has submitted over 100 samples of DNA to be tested against that. No, 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 no. 23 years of no. Really excited on that thing when we went down to Louisiana a couple years ago thinking we had it. No. Really excited in Twin Falls. No. All of a sudden, yes, we got it.
Where were you? Did you get a call?
I did. Captain Squires called me, let me know it was a match. They were pretty darn excited, but the case isn't done, right? You can't plant a flag and be done. But yeah, that was pretty exciting.
So it goes from the genealogist who basically says, we think it could be this person. It's a lead generator. That's the thing she emphasized. So
and she'd been generating leads here, right? There were several people we went and did this with. She's generated a lot of leads for us. That's why it became such an active investigation.
So from there it goes to the state lab where they compare that cigarette butt to the DNA, and it's a match. But now you got to get the guy.
We got to get the guy, and we need to get an interview, right? I'm not going to offer alternative suggestions, but who knows what he might say. We've got a murder and a rape case that we've got to take care of, and we've matched the DNA, but we need to do the investigative, the detective work. And so, they were pretty excited. I was pretty excited. We're all pretty excited for 20 minutes, and then we got to get this going. We got to do something else. So the team comes back to Idaho Falls. Another set of folks that were just so helpful was the Bonneville County Prosecutor's Office, Mr. Clark and his team. This is a big deal, right? It's a big deal.
Huge.
Yeah. We don't want to get it wrong,
yeah.
Right? And so we met with them over and over and over again to go over what can we do, what can't we do, what's the best way to do this. And they were just really, really helpful. And there was an entire plan put into place. So they go down, it's all about the interview. Go back to Caldwell, and gosh, Caldwell PD was great to work with. They turned their entire building over to us. They gave us anything we needed. State police was there with us the whole time. It was an education for me. This is my third state, and in the other states you have statewide authority. Idaho, we don't quite have statewide authority, so we had to have the state police with us the entire time as we went from jurisdiction to jurisdiction to be able to do the work. And they were just so incredibly helpful. The team goes down there, the whole team staying at a Holiday Inn. I'm talking to Detective Sergeant John Marley and Detective Sage Albright, and we need the interview. And I'm talking to him like, are you guys ready? If we need more time, we can wait a little bit. Are you guys ready? And I'm like, look, we've spent days and days poring over everything. Both John and Sage, they had the crime scene photos memorized, every part of this thing just memorized to be prepared to go into this interview, and Detective Sergeant Marley said, we're ready, we're as ready as we'll ever be. They knew this is Angie Dodge, this is the Dodge case, 23 years. This is woven into the DNA of the Idaho Falls Police Department, the community. This is big, and they knew it in the time. So it was hard for them to sleep that night because they knew it was coming up. So the next morning we have a brief at the Caldwell Police Department. Lieutenant Joel Tisdale, he's kind of putting this operation together, and he's got the 12 or so IFPD detectives there. All the Caldwell police assets were there. All the state police. It was this big group of folks. Joel's up in front. He's got these maps. He's got diagrams. He's got all the lists of officers, their assignments, who's doing what, when, how this is going to go. He just has this incredible plan put into place. Everyone's aware of what we're going to try to do. We have to get the interview. The interview is the thing that is most important at this point. And so they have him pretty well mapped out. About between 12 and 12:15, he jumps in his truck and off he goes to the convenience store, gets a couple of sodas, takes one back, takes them both back, gives one to his stepdad, and that's been his pattern. So we get out there on scene. The plan is to follow him to the convenience store. We don't want to try to take him at the house because...
And you're in unmarked cars.
All unmarked cars, undercover cars. We don't want to go to the house just for safety reasons. We had ample probable cause, could just run up and put handcuffs on him, but we need this interview.
Sure.
So we want to do a real soft contact. So plan's going perfectly. We follow him. He turns the wrong way, though. He doesn't go to the convenience store, and off he goes down the road. And so, everyone gets a little bit, what are we going to do now,
Yeah.
You hear the voice of Lieutenant Joel Tisdale come over the radio. It's all right, guys, we planned for this. We're going to follow him wherever he stops, different locations, same plan. It's like, okay, we can do this, and just Lieutenant Tisdale was awesome. So, and I don't know that area very well. I couldn't tell you where we were. I think we went through a couple of cities,
Oh, wow. So how long were you on the road?
It was quite a while. At one point, it was like, does he know we're here? Does he not know what's going on? But he had a different set of errands he was doing that day, just life, right? He ends up pulling into a bank. He gets out of his car. Lieutenant Tisdale says, we're going. Same operation, same plan, just instead of a convenience store, it's a bank. And so the guys just jumped right in it. One of the IFPD undercover narcotics detectives followed him into the bank. Lieutenant Tisdale followed him into the bank. He did whatever he was doing in there. The plan was that he came out of the bank, the two of them kind of blocked the door, so we wouldn't have him going back in as a murder suspect, right? We didn't want him going back in having a hostage situation or something like that, and we didn't want to have any issues like that, so they blocked him. Detective Sergeant John Marley and Detective Sage Albright, they were dressed in full suits. They had their game faces on for what they're going to do. They went up and just contacted him as he was getting to his car. Just started talking to him. They spoke for about 10-15 minutes there at the car. Just did a phenomenal job. At one point, as I'm watching this, he starts laughing as he's having this conversation with these two detectives.
The suspect.
The suspect is, the whole operation designed to get him to cooperate with this. Come back to the police department, let's get an interview. So they contact him, they start building that rapport. He's really concerned about his dog. He's got a dog with him, and he's really concerned about his dog. And he doesn't want to come with us because he wants to take care of the dog. He doesn't want us taking his, people love their pets,
Sure.
right? People love their dogs. We do anything to his dog, and he's never going to talk to us, right? So Detective Sergeant Marley decides that he'll get into the truck with him. Our suspect said if he could take his dog home, he'd come with us. So John Marley gets into the truck, and that's not something you would normally do. It's from a police tactic, it's a really bad idea to get into a truck with a murder suspect and his dog and drive off. Not something you'd normally do, but he understood the importance of what he was trying to get done, And we were trying not to play all of our cards at the time, and we didn't want him to know what was there. And so there were just unmarked and undercover police cars all over the place as this was happening. And Lieutenant Tisdale kind of set up a protective ring around with cars everywhere, and we all followed him back to the house.
Kind of like a police escort, but not with lights.
But without anyone knowing what it was.
Yeah.
It was pretty phenomenal what they were able to pull off. He drove back to the house. The dog got home safely. He very voluntarily got into the car with the two detectives, and they drove to the Caldwell Police Department where they did the interview.
Wow. And Captain Squire said that it took about 5 hours to get a confession.
Yeah, so, again, we have these interview schools that we go to, right? And John Marley and Sage Albright, the two detectives, they're going to teach that school. They're going to use this for generation of cops to come, for how to do an interview. They started talking to him. They had a plan in place. It was pre-planned. Wasn't left a chance. They knew what they were going to do each step of the way. They were prepared for it. They talk, denial. They keep talking, denial. They're not laying all of our cards down, right? They had a fantastic plan in place. There's rules for interviews. There's rules for how you do it. They're following all those. They take multiple breaks to let things happen. At one point, he asked for a sandwich. Asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so Lieutenant Joel Tisdale, he's running around Caldwell PD trying to find bread, peanut butter, and jelly.
Made him a sandwich.
Made him a sandwich. So Lieutenant Tisdale made the sandwich, brought it back in. He ate a sandwich, and that's when he kind of broke down after that. And they got the information they were looking for, and it was just an incredible job done by those guys. So
you don't necessarily lead with, "We've got DNA that proves you were there. Confess." You don't want to go down that route.
No. It was a phenomenal interview. So professional, just a great job, and that was the whole goal of the entire operation, was to be able to talk to him, and they executed it flawlessly. And I couldn't have written a script to have it go as well as they pulled it off. They are just some of the greatest detectives and police leaders I've ever had the honor of working with in my life.
And I don't think you could write a script to this entire story for a television or a book or a movie. I mean, all the twists and turns. Yeah. So he'll be brought back to Idaho Falls. Maybe by the time this airs, he'll be here. He'll go through the court proceedings. And are there any other suspects that might be connected to this?
Part of what the ongoing investigation is to clarify that and make sure we know exactly what happened. So as we speak now, we're not quite ready to say exactly who else may have been involved or if no one was involved. What I am confident of is through this break and this lead, we have enough information to follow up on that. I'm quite confident we will be able to find those answers and share them with everyone in the near future.
Chris Tapp.
Yes.
What happens with him, with that whole situation?
I don't know. So we have to complete the investigation. Everything associated with Chris Tapp will have a great big bright light shown on it, and I'm confident we will get to the truth. Our mission, our obligation is to find the truth. If that truth helps an investigation, if that truth hurts an investigation, if that truth makes the police department look good, if that truth makes the police department look bad, is irrelevant. Our mission and our purpose is to find the truth of what happened. I am confident we've got most of that truth right now. I am very confident we will get all of that truth and be able to share it. And that's what we're doing right now.
So,
good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, that truth will be found, and we will share it when we can.
So when you say, it's yesterday wasn't the day, 2 or 3 weeks might be the day, are you thinking like a news conference, or you meet with Chris one-on-one? Were you meeting with him during all of this, or did he learn the news when everyone did?
No, I didn't meet with him. I talked with him briefly yesterday, so I did talk to him. It's premature to do any of those things because the investigation is not complete. Any information I would give to anyone about that right now would be incomplete information, and I'm just not going to do that. So it will come. I'm confident the truth is there, that the detectives will find it. I'm confident that will occur, and we will share that as soon as we're sure of what occurred.
Tell me about was it you that contacted Carol and said, we've got our guy, or was it someone else?
As all this is going along, we've been meeting with Carol and we've been meeting with Brent. So Carol knew full well we were working with CC. We met with both Carol and Brent before we went to Twin Falls. They didn't know where we were going, but they knew we were going to try to collect people's DNA, and they knew why we were doing it. We had told Carol and Brent at that time we had the suspect list down to less than 10. It was 6. So we were giving them as much information as we could without, we still had to hold on to some of it to make the case go forward. So they knew that. We got the information back from CC about the new thing, the new genealogy, the new one that led us to our suspect. So we had that, and we knew we were going to Caldwell to try to get his DNA. Captain Squires and I met with Carol and Brent at that point. I told her, look, we're really focused now, and they, 23 years, they want to know everything. I'd want to know everything. Who wouldn't? You just can't give everything quite yet. We let them know we were really focused at that time, so they both knew that we were going to be going somewhere, and that we were pretty focused. I promised Carol and Brent that I'd meet with them again within about 3 weeks to let them know how that went. So when they went and got the cigarette butt, came back positive, we knew at that point we were going back to Caldwell, and that we had a positive DNA match. We wanted the interview, but we knew it was going to happen. So I called up Brent and Carol and said, hey, I'm going to need to meet with you. So as they're interviewing the suspect in Caldwell, I jumped in the car to head back to talk to Carol. On the way back, I was somewhere this side of Twin Falls in a convenience store grabbing a soda because I was getting tired. And Bill Squires called me up and said, we got the confession, so.
Oh, so you learned, wow.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in my car high-fiving my roof.
Drinking your soda.
I'm sure they thought I was quite a strange man somewhere. But I talked to Detective, he was Detective Josh Deedy. Now Sergeant Josh Deedy has a really good relationship with Carol. So Josh and I were going to meet Carol and Brent there. So we got back to Idaho Falls. It was about 5:15, 5:20. Our appointment with Carol and Brent was 5:30. We sat down. There was maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes of just standard small talk as you're sitting down. And I kind of said, hey, just cut straight to the chase. After 23 years of looking, we have a positive match on the DNA sample that was left at the murder scene. And that was about as far as we got. That was overwhelming for Carol. Detective Deedy, Sergeant Deedy, he's in tears. Carol's in tears. Brent is such a great man. He's there with his mom, supporting his mom. And that's about as much as we could cover that night.
I bet. Man.
We let them know what would happen the next day, which was yesterday, how that was going to happen. We told them we'd meet with the family. We scheduled that. I kind of thought there'd be a couple people there. As it turned out, that room was packed. Everyone loves Carol. There were people, it was 20 plus people that came to that meeting with the family that Carol wanted there.
Wow.
So that happened the next day. But that night, we talked to Carol and Brent.
It's interesting that you said at the news conference how after Carol would talk to you, she'd say, I love you. Because she would say the same thing to me, and I was kind of caught off guard the first time. And I think that's just how she is with everyone. It's, love you, you're doing a good job.
I think it's sincere.
Yeah, oh, I do too.
I think it's sincere. She is an incredible person.
Could the Angie Dodge case have been solved? Could you have gotten here 2 or 3 years ago? Or has technology come that far that...
Technology has come that far. I think when we get to the end and we look backwards from 2020 hindsight, someone I'm sure is going to say, well, you could have done this, you could have done that. I think that's unfair. I think everyone, as it was going on, did the best that the techniques and the technology of the day told them to do. So it just took 23 years to have everything line up and to make it work.
And it is phenomenal police work. You mentioned a few of the officers and Captain Squires that you were saying how he played such an integral part in this.
Yeah, it's both those cases, Stephanie and Angie. You know, Captain Squires got the investigative bureau about a year and a half ago. You know, and this is all under his watch. He's the one that's put all these things together and been over it. Captain Squires, 23 years ago, it was his rookie year at IFPD. And he was at the original scene with Angie. He was the scene security officer standing on Angie's porch, documenting who was coming in, who was coming out. And here, 23 years later, you know, he's the one that's meeting with CC and talking to CC and working through all this really cutting edge genealogy, forensics. How do you match it? You know, people start explaining me to it, and it's like, I have no idea what they're talking about. Captain Squires is our expert. He's figuring it all out and understanding what's going on, and he's working all that as it goes along. You know, he's putting together all these operations to Twin Falls, to Caldwell, doing all of these things, talking with the family. You know, there's so many huge human stories here. Carol's is a Brent's a compelling human story. Bill Squires, you know, as this is all going on, he's got a daughter that is just a beautiful, brilliant young woman. She's graduating from Skyline High School. She's got a scholarship. She's about to go to college. There's an award ceremony taking place. As we get the information, I think you told me you went to a kids event, right? And we rearranged this, you know. Life is still going on at the same time, so he's got this going on as he's trying to plan this operation to Caldwell. He's fully aware that there's this huge, the biggest case that any of us are going to work is going on, you know, and he's doing all that. If you watched him at the press conference yesterday as he's talking, his family pet, his family dog had died just as this is all going on. He's emotionally overwhelmed with all that happening, and you look at him and his professionalism, how he's running the whole thing and what he's doing. Got all his people there. You know, I'm so impressed with that. I was mentioning, you know, Bill and I, you know, we interviewed for the same job a couple of years ago. I'm not exactly sure the mayor got that one right. I would be absolutely honored to work for Bill Squires. Wow. I would work for him any time in the world. He's just such a great part of the story and did so well.
Well, you know, I don't think police hear it enough. Sometimes police get a bad rap a lot of the time, and this case proves that, my goodness, what a dedication and what a determination, and I can't even imagine. And now a whole new phase of this case begins.
So, you know, there's good and there's bad. We're pretty happy about what happened here. You know, we'll take the good. If there's any bad, we'll take the bad. It's just part of the job. Carol is just an amazing person. Carol and Brent, the Dodge family. It was just incredible to be with them in those moments and to see. Carol's had an up and down relationship with the police department over years, and you know, she comes in and hugs everyone, and for her to put aside what I think are some of her hard feelings and treat us the way she does, what an incredible human she is, what a credible person. It was just an honor to be part of that story.
And for her to say, which so many people commented yesterday, that the hand of God was leading this all along for 23 years to get here. I mean, there's a lot of people that might not want to acknowledge that if that is their belief in the end. Thank you, Chief. Yeah. Wow, and thanks to all of your detectives who hopefully are getting a little bit of sleep, or maybe they're too excited they can't sleep.
I think they finally went to bed. Hopefully went to bed. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.